Most men don't fail because they're unlucky. They fail because they believe lies that feel good but destroy progress. They say things like, "I'll wait until I'm motivated," or "It's too late for me," not realizing those are just clever ways to avoid responsibility. The Stoics didn't sugarcoat life. They believed that excuses are the first sign of weakness, and that true success demands brutal honesty, not blind hope. In this video, we're exposing 6 of the dumbest things men say about success. Excuses that sound smart but kill your potential. If you've ever caught yourself blaming luck, age, or lack of motivation, this is your wake-up call. Success isn't owed to you. It's earned through relentless discipline and the courage to face hard truths. So if you're done with waiting, comparing, and wishing, hit like, subscribe, and let's get into the 6 lies holding you back and how Stoic wisdom destroys them.
Number 1.
Success is just luck. This is one of the laziest beliefs a man can hold. And one of the most damaging. It's a seductive lie because it lets you off the hook. If success is just about luck, then there's no need to work harder, no need to improve, no need to take responsibility. You can sit back, criticize others who are doing better than you, and tell yourself it's all just a roll of the dice. But the Stoics had no patience for this kind of thinking. Seneca said it clearly. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. In other words, fortune may open a door, but only those who are ready can walk through it. If you're not prepared, opportunity looks like misfortune. If you haven't trained, the chance to perform feels like pressure. If you haven't worked, the reward seems unfair. What most call luck is really the intersection of invisible effort and perfect timing. Now let's be honest, some people are born with better cards, better looks, better networks, more resources. But here's the Stoic truth. You don't control the cards, you control how you play them. Epictetus taught that the key to life is focusing on what's within your power. You can't control your starting point, but you can control your discipline, your focus, your grit. The man who spends his time envying another's fortune is wasting the very energy that could be used to build his own. This mindset is not only dangerous, it's addictive. It creates a victim identity that feels comfortable, even noble. You tell yourself you're doing your best, but fate just won't cooperate. You start worshiping fairness instead of developing toughness. And the more you repeat the lie, the more it becomes your identity. Take the example of Howard Schultz, the former CEO of Starbucks. He grew up in public housing, the son of a truck driver. He wasn't lucky in the traditional sense, but what he had was relentless preparation. He learned, he studied, he worked. And when the chance came to buy into a tiny coffee company, he didn't hesitate. Because he was ready. That wasn't luck. That was decades of grit meeting one moment of opportunity. Or consider Marcus Aurelius. He was born into privilege, yes, but privilege didn't crown him a philosopher king. His journals, what we now call meditations, are filled with reminders to himself to be just, to be disciplined, to be focused. He didn't trust fortune. He prepared for adversity. He trained his mind like a soldier trains his body. That's not luck. That's inner work. And inner work doesn't rely on circumstance. It depends on consistency. Even in modern times, we see the same pattern. Take someone like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. People see the fame and money, but they don't see the 4 a.m. workouts, the constant learning, the focus behind the scenes. When asked if he was lucky, he replied, "Sure, I'm lucky, but I also work my ass off every single day." That's not contradiction, that's clarity. Here's another example closer to the intellectual world. Ryan Holiday. He wasn't born into influence, but through deliberate study, writing, and serving under mentors, he positioned himself so that when the moment came, he could launch a career that merged Stoic wisdom with modern strategy. That's not blind luck. That's alignment earned over time. The problem with blaming success on luck is that it builds resentment instead of resolve. You start to see others' wins as unfair instead of earned. You start to believe the world is rigged against you instead of seeing how you're refusing to step up. Stoicism flips that script. It teaches you that fortune may favor the bold, but it only rewards the prepared. The real tragedy isn't that life is unfair. It's that most men waste the power they do have by pretending they have none. They numb themselves with excuses. They convince themselves that effort is pointless, and they die with potential untouched. Not because fate betrayed them, but because they surrendered before the battle even started. So the next time you hear someone say, "Success is just luck," ask yourself this: are they trying to understand success or excuse their failure? Because the Stoic knows the truth. Fortune is real, but discipline, focus, and relentless action, that's what makes you ready when it finally knocks. Don't wait for luck. Train like it's never coming. Then when it does, you'll be the only one prepared to seize it.
Number 2.
I'm too old to start. This is a quiet form of surrender dressed up as logic. It sounds mature, even wise. I missed my window. That's for younger men. It's too late now. But beneath those words is not truth. It's fear. Fear of judgment. Fear of change. Fear that starting now will force you to confront the time you've already wasted. The Stoics never bowed to fear disguised as reason. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." He wasn't urging panic. He was urging presence. The idea that age disqualifies you from beginning is a modern illusion. The present moment, the only place where action ever occurs, is indifferent to your age. What matters is not how long you've delayed, but whether you'll delay again today. The lie of being too old is seductive because it feels safe. It lets you trade effort for reflection. You tell yourself you're being realistic, when in truth you're protecting your ego. You fear that starting now would expose how much time you've wasted. But in trying to avoid that pain, you guarantee more of it. You sink deeper into regret instead of rising into resolve. Let's look at the facts. Colonel Sanders didn't franchise KFC until his 60s. Ray Kroc turned McDonald's into a global empire at 52. Laura Ingalls Wilder didn't write her first Little House book until age 65. Samuel L. Jackson's breakout role came at 46, and yet none of them apologized for starting. They simply began. Stoicism doesn't ask, "Am I late?" It asks, "Is this worth doing?" And if it is, then the only time to act is now. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." The past is full of time misused, but that realization is not meant to shame you. It's meant to wake you up. You don't need to start younger. You need to stop postponing the life that's still in front of you. The clock hasn't disqualified you. It's just made your urgency real. The Stoics believed in action rooted in clarity, not emotion. And the clearest thing in the world is this: regret multiplies when you avoid responsibility. When you say, "I'm too old," you're not declaring a truth. You're just giving yourself permission to coast. But ease is not peace. Comfort is not purpose. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to move at all. Age is not the enemy. Attachment is. You're attached to a fantasy of how things were supposed to go, of what you should have done, of who you could have been. But you're not living in that timeline anymore. You're here, and unless you want to die with more stories of what never was, you need to let go of what's gone and build from where you stand. Even the Stoics themselves weren't born wise. Wisdom wasn't a trait. They built it slowly, repetitively, through failure and effort. The later you begin, the more aware you are of what matters. The fluff has fallen away. You no longer seek validation. You seek truth. That makes your start more powerful, not less. Stoicism teaches us to face reality, not romanticize it. It reminds you that the only time that belongs to you is this moment, not the past, which is closed, not the future, which is uncertain, just now. This second, this choice, this action, Epictetus said. How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? The implied answer is, stop waiting. True strength isn't found in youth, it's found in conviction. The man who begins today, even with trembling hands and a weathered face, is more powerful than the young man who keeps waiting for confidence. Time has already passed. That part is done. But what you do with what's left, that's still yours. So ask yourself, would you rather be embarrassed for starting late or broken by never starting at all? And more importantly, what if you're not too old but finally wise enough to do it right? The Stoic doesn't count birthdays. He counts moments of clarity. He measures progress not by how far he's come, but by how honest he is with himself right now. The only gate that ever opens is the one in front of you. Walk through it.
Number 3.
I deserve success. This belief is subtle, but dangerous. It sounds empowering, even motivational. I've worked hard, I've been through a lot, I've suffered. Therefore, I deserve success. But the Stoic would stop you right there. You may have suffered, but so has everyone. You may have worked hard. But effort alone doesn't guarantee results. You may feel deserving. But the universe is not in the business of granting rewards to those who merely feel worthy. In fact, the Stoics would argue that entitlement is one of the fastest ways to kill growth. Because once you believe you deserve something, you stop striving, you stop adapting, you stop taking responsibility for your response to adversity, and in doing so, you surrender the one thing that actually leads to success: ownership of your own path. Epictetus warned against expecting the world to conform to your desires. Don't seek for events to happen as you wish, he said, but wish for events to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly. That's not a passive mindset. It's a shift from entitlement to alignment, from demanding outcomes to accepting that effort must be its own reward. The idea that you deserve success is rooted in a transactional mindset. I did this, so I should get that. But life doesn't operate like a vending machine. You don't insert pain and receive happiness. You don't endure failure and automatically earn triumph. Life is far more complex, and the Stoic knows this. That's why he prepares for difficulty without resentment and does his duty without expecting applause or pity. Look at someone like Stephen King. His first novel, Carrie, was rejected over 30 times. He threw it in the trash. His wife pulled it out and told him to keep going. He didn't think, I deserve a book deal. He wrote because writing was what he did, and when success finally came, it wasn't a reward for suffering. It was the natural result of relentless action. Or take J.K. Rowling. Before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon, she was a single mother living on welfare. She didn't sit around demanding success because of her pain. She wrote, she improved, she kept submitting. The world didn't give her success out of pity. It gave it because she produced something meaningful and kept going when others stopped. And look at someone like Morgan Freeman. For decades, he was a working actor with barely any name recognition. He didn't let bitterness infect his craft. He didn't demand recognition. He simply kept showing up, patient, focused, committed. When the opportunity arrived, he was ready, not because he expected it, but because he earned it through years of unseen work. This is the Stoic ethic. Do the work, stay consistent, accept the outcome. Don't confuse suffering with virtue. Don't confuse effort with entitlement. The reward is not guaranteed, but the strength you build along the way is. And that's the part no one can take from you. That's what makes the Stoic powerful, not the prize, but the perseverance. The moment you believe you're owed something, you stop seeing clearly, You start blaming others when things don't go your way. You grow bitter. You sabotage yourself. And most dangerously, you wait. You wait for the universe to deliver a prize it never promised. Seneca put it simply, expecting is the greatest impediment to living. In anticipation of tomorrow, we lose today. If you expect success to come just because you want it, you're not living. You're postponing. You're deferring your peace to a future condition. That's not Stoic, that's slavery to outcome. The Stoic doesn't seek success, he seeks excellence. He doesn't demand results, he commits to the process. And when success comes, it's welcomed, but never assumed. He knows that peace lies in effort, not in outcome, that virtue is the reward, and that the process is the path. So ask yourself, are you moving with purpose or waiting with expectation? Are you building a life that's worthy of success or just hoping that life will feel sorry enough for you to give it? Drop the entitlement, keep the discipline. Stop asking if you deserve success and start asking if success would recognize you if it showed up today. You are not owed anything, but you can become someone who earns everything.
Number 4.
I'll wait until I'm motivated. This is perhaps the most seductive lie of all. The idea that you need to feel like it before you begin. It sounds harmless, patient even, but underneath, it's paralysis dressed up as wisdom, because what you're really saying is, I'll wait until I'm in the perfect emotional state before I take control of my life. And the Stoics would immediately tear that idea apart. Motivation is a fleeting emotion. It comes and goes like the weather. It cannot be depended on. Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Not feel ready, be ready. Stoicism is not about waiting for inspiration. It's about acting in alignment with your values, no matter how you feel. Because waiting to feel ready is the fast track to staying exactly where you are. The problem with relying on motivation is that it makes your growth conditional. You're no longer the driver. You've become a passenger, hoping some mystical force will show up and push you forward. But the Stoic knows that power doesn't come from waiting, it comes from choosing. Choosing to act even when it's boring. Choosing to persist when it's hard. Choosing to move forward when nothing inside you wants to. James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, puts it bluntly. Professionals stick to the schedule. Amateurs let life get in the way. Motivation is for amateurs. Discipline is for professionals. And discipline is the core of Stoic action. When you tie your future to feelings, you've already handed over your power. When you tie it to your principles, you build a foundation that doesn't shake when your mood does. Let's look at someone like David Goggins. He's not Stoic by tradition, but by practice, he embodies it. He runs ultra marathons, trains in the dark, works through pain, and not because he's motivated, he says it himself. He doesn't like most of it, he just does it anyway. Because the goal isn't to feel good, the goal is to become stronger. That mindset, pure Stoicism, action before emotion, discipline before desire. Or consider Ryan Holiday. He writes daily, studies constantly, puts out books with consistency and impact. Not because every day is magical, but because he's made the decision to commit, regardless of mood. That Stoic discipline in motion, that's what separates the person who finishes from the one who always plans. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being, not as someone who feels like it, but as someone who was born to rise, to serve, to act." That's what Stoicism demands. Not mood, but motion. Not feeling, but focus. You're not supposed to always want to. You're supposed to show up anyway. Waiting to feel ready is how dreams die slowly. You tell yourself you'll start when the timing is right, when you feel energized, when things calm down, but life rarely gives you that perfect moment. What it gives you instead is the chance, right now, to act anyway. The Stoic sees the chance and moves, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. You don't have to feel confident to begin. You just have to begin. And as you move, clarity comes. As you repeat, strength builds. As you show up, even imperfectly, you become what you once hoped motivation would turn you into. And here's the brutal truth. Many people are not unmotivated. They're undisciplined. They are waiting to feel brave instead of learning to act while afraid. They are hoping for perfect energy instead of building habits that run on low fuel. They're looking for fire but refusing to strike the match, right? So ask yourself, what are you postponing right now because you're waiting to feel inspired? How many mornings have you wasted in hesitation? How many ideas have you let rot in the back of your mind? All because you were waiting for the fire to start. The Stoic doesn't wait for fire. He becomes the spark. He shows up whether it's raining or shining inside his chest, because he understands that consistency builds confidence and discipline builds freedom. Stop waiting, show up, and watch what happens when you move anyway.
Number 5.
I'm not lucky like him. This one sounds honest, humble even. It doesn't scream arrogance like, I deserve success, and it's not as obviously weak as, it's too hard. Instead, it wraps envy in the clothing of observation. I'm not lucky like him, you say. He had connections, he had money, he had a head start. And in one sentence, you let yourself off the hook for everything you failed to build. But make no mistake, this is not humility. This is hidden resentment. And resentment is the enemy of personal growth. The Stoics taught that envy is a poison of perception. It narrows your view until you can't see your own strengths because your eyes are glued to someone else's life. Marcus Aurelius warned, it is not the things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. When you say someone else is lucky, what you're really doing is judging your life through the lens of comparison. And that lens is always distorted. Here's the truth. Maybe that person was lucky. Maybe they were born into wealth or beauty or connections. So what? The Stoic doesn't ask, why wasn't I given more? He asks, what can I do with what I have? That shift in focus, from complaint to command, is where power begins. Seneca reminds us, no man was ever wise by chance. Wisdom isn't inherited, nor is discipline, nor focus, nor character. These are built, and they're built in silence, over time, far from the spotlight. Just because someone got a head start doesn't mean you're stuck at the bottom. The only thing that keeps you there is believing you don't have a shot. Look at someone like Oprah Winfrey. She was born into poverty, endured abuse, and grew up in a world that gave her no shortcuts. But she never said, I'm not lucky like them. She said, what can I build from this? And she built an empire, not from luck, but from relentless clarity, discipline, and responsibility. Or consider Tyler Perry. He lived in his car, got laughed off stages, failed repeatedly, but instead of envying the success of others, he created his own. One play, $1, one lesson at a time. That is Stoic strength in action. Not craving ease, but using hardship as a chisel to carve yourself into something better. The most dangerous part about believing in luck is that it lets you admire others while refusing to become like them. You say he's lucky instead of asking, what does he do that I'm unwilling to do? That's the real dividing line. It's not fate, it's effort, it's not luck, it's mindset. Even within the Stoic tradition, the lives of its philosophers weren't shaped by favorable odds. Epictetus was born into slavery. He had no wealth, no freedom, no prestige. Yet his name is remembered not because fortune favored him, but because he chose to master himself when life gave him nothing else to control. That is what made him powerful. Not luck, but principle. Stoicism trains you to put the focus back where it belongs. not on what others have, but on how you respond. You don't control the size of your platform. You control how often you step onto it. You don't control how many people believe in you. You control how deeply you believe in yourself. Comparison is noise. Envy is poison. But discipline, that's pure signal. That's where the Stoic lives, in the quiet repetition of action, in the daily choice to show up even when no one claps, in the refusal to use another man's advantages as an excuse to abandon your own growth. So ask yourself, are you really unlucky, or are you uncomfortable with the fact that building takes longer than fantasizing? Are you really disadvantaged, or just distracted by someone else's highlight reel? The Stoic doesn't blame fate. He prepares for it. He doesn't watch others win and complain. He watches and learns, because the Stoic doesn't want luck. He wants mastery, and mastery never arrives wrapped in ease. Stop envying, start building, one small act at a time, one quiet day after the next, until the life you thought required luck reveals itself as the reward for consistency. Number 6, it's too hard. This is the excuse that sounds reasonable, because it often is. Some things are hard. Building a business, repairing broken trust, waking up early every day to pursue a dream with no guarantee. It's hard, but the problem isn't that it's difficult. The problem is believing difficulty is a sign to stop. That's the lie. That's the trap. The Stoics knew this deeply. Life is supposed to be hard, Marcus Aurelius wrote. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, the difficulty is the path, not the thing to avoid, but the thing to confront with discipline and calm. Hardship isn't the opposite of success. It's the gateway to it. Saying it's too hard is often just a mask for, I'm afraid to fail, or I don't want to be uncomfortable, or I want it to be easier than it is. But Stoicism doesn't honor those desires. It honors the man who shows up regardless. The one who says, I didn't choose this pain, but I choose what I do with it. Look at someone like Elon Musk. Whatever you think of him, you cannot deny his willingness to tackle insanely difficult challenges. Building rockets, reinventing energy, creating entire industries. And even he has said, if something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. That's not comfort. That's commitment. That's Stoic clarity in modern form. Or think of someone like Bethany Hamilton. She lost her arm in a shark attack at 13. She didn't say, it's too hard. She went back to surfing, trained, adapted, competed. She didn't ask for ease. She chose resilience. That's what Stoicism teaches. Not to wish the struggle away, but to become worthy of the challenge. You could also look at someone like James Dyson. He created over 5,000 prototypes before building the vacuum that launched a multi-billion-dollar company. 5,000 failures. That's not luck. That's not motivation. That's radical patience. And the Stoic would nod at that. Not because of the result, but because of the discipline that preceded it. It's too hard is not a fact, it's a feeling. And feelings, as the Stoics remind us, are not masters. They're signals. You don't have to obey them. You observe them. You use them. And then you move anyway. Hard is not the enemy. Hard is the filter. It separates those who want attention from those who want transformation. It reveals who's serious and who's just talking. And it purifies the reward. Because what is easy is often cheap, and what is difficult is usually valuable. Seneca said, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. And you know this, you've felt it. When you finish something you thought you couldn't do, when you go through pain and come out stronger on the other side, that's a different kind of confidence. It's earned, it's quiet, and it doesn't go away the next time life gets hard. Stoicism doesn't tell you to enjoy the pain. It tells you to endure it with dignity. It doesn't ask you to smile through the storm. It asks you to stand tall in it, because the goal is not to avoid discomfort, but to use it, to let it forge you, to let it reveal to you what actually matters. And if you find yourself thinking, this is harder than I thought, good. That means you're on the right path. That means you're finally doing something that requires your full attention. It means the version of you that's been sleepwalking through life is being asked to grow. So the next time your mind says, it's too hard, you respond like a Stoic. You say, good. Not sarcastically, not delusionally, but because you understand. This is your moment. This is your proving ground. This is the chance to grow into the person you claim you want to become. Don't wish for ease, wish for endurance. Don't shrink from the mountain. Learn how to climb. Refuse the soft path. Embrace the steep one. Because every struggle you meet with courage becomes a quiet chapter in your strength. Hard is the price, and peace is on the other side of paying it. If you've made it this far, you've already done what most men won't. Face the truth, not the version that comforts, the one that corrects, because success doesn't respond to feelings. It responds to effort, to clarity, to action. If any of these 6 excuses have lived in your mind, this is your moment to evict them. Not with shame, but with strength, because the Stoic path isn't about being perfect, it's about being honest, ruthlessly honest, and then choosing to rise anyway. So if this video hits something real for you, don't let that awareness fade. Like it, share it, and subscribe for more reminders of who you're capable of becoming. You don't need motivation, you need direction. And we're building that, one truth at a time. Stay disciplined, stay focused, and above all, stay in control of your mind, because once you master that, you master everything.